Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
Hey, this is Jack, Chief Lead Generation Officer at salesbread.com. What are we talking about, Jeremy?
Today, we are going to look at a few ways of how to minimize spam complaints. That's the thing that actually kill your email deliverability and make your inbox and your domain pretty bad. But there are ways, techniques, strategies in order to reduce the number of spam complaints you're getting. In fact, if you listen to our episodes and you follow some of the recommendations that we have, you may actually be able to use your domain for cold outreach for a much longer period of time because you're going to get less spam complaints.
Okay, I'm sold.
You're sold. Great. Time to do your one-liner.
Yeah, that sounds good. So the obvious, a spam complaint is hitting that flag as spam button, right? Okay. And when someone does that, it tells Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, Outlook to start putting more of our messages in the spam folder, right? Which is why the open rate goes from like 80 to 25, 30. Yeah.
Do people still use Hotmail, especially in
Yeah,
B2B?
good point. Yeah, I don't know who uses Hotmail, Jeremy. But be that as it may, there are some ways to reduce spam complaints, and I know our listeners want to hear about it. So without further ado, let me do my one-liners so we can wait a little bit more. I'm going to stretch this thing out here. No, it's a very serious matter. Most B2B companies these days lack the time and expertise to turn cold prospects into warm leads. At salesbread.com, we generate one lead or booked appointment every day, Monday through Friday, by sending ultra personalized cold emails and LinkedIn messages that people don't want to report as spam. So head over to salesbread.com/contact. Tell me who you're selling to, what you're selling, what you've tried, if you're new to outreach, and I'll give you some ideas. And if there's something interesting on both sides, then maybe we can even jump on a short call together where I'll spill a couple strategy ideas. That all starts at salesbread.com/contact.
Yeah, and Jack is absolutely right. This is tip number 1, hire Jack.
All right, great cast, Jeremy. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Hey, hold on. Tip number 2, use QuickMail Auto Warmer. No, I'm kidding. But basically, no, I am kidding.
I'm not kidding.
It has nothing to do with spam complaint, to be honest and to be fair, but it will improve your email deliverability. So why not giving it a go? It is free. We make it free for 2 reasons. The first one is we want people who use QuickMail to send outreach emails to have a success and not have to wonder, should I actually pay for this or not? I mean, email deliverability should not be something that you should cut on. So we decided to give it for free. And the second reason is the more people who are using the auto warmer, then the better it is for everyone else, because there is a little bit of a network effect here as you're going to contact new inbox. Yeah, it's like Facebook. But anyway, without further ado, I think we should jump into the cast.
I agree, Jeremy. Okay. So give us some ways. How are we going to reduce some spam complaints? I got a short list of mine, but I'm certainly interested on what's top of your list here. By the way, is your list ranked? Is there any order involved here?
No, it's basically what comes through my mind, and I just
brain dump. Maybe at the end you could give us like a ranking here.
All right. So if I look at my my thing, let me just think quickly. I would say the first one is definitely don't contact individuals in a B2C type of environment. So if you have, a Kickstarter, it may be very tempting to do outreach to individuals, but there are so many laws to try to protect individuals. People hate it, and they will very likely and very quickly flag you as spam because they are not expecting pitch on their personal email address. They may expected it on their work email, but not on their personal email. So If you are, doing that Kickstarter, try to work with influencers, and then reach out to them instead of reaching directly to consumers. So that'll be my tip number one, avoid consumers. Very closely to a second one, but I want to hear you first, Jack.
Okay, so mine are in an order of priority here. I think the numero uno item is list, and then your list, right? So you want to send a message to an audience that wants that message. If it's not relevant, I'm going to hate it, right? And it's just so easy to click that flag as spam button. You try and sell me a Mohawk hair gel. It's obviously not relevant for me, audio listeners. I'm bald, and I'm gonna find it very, let's say, out of left field, and I don't want to hear about that kind of stuff.
I do.
So I'm gonna mark it as spam, right? So I think if you get the list right, correct me if I'm wrong, but like
sure. But you have to
everything else
careful.
will get easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Hit us with number 2 on your list.
Number 2 is very similar in a sense, and this actually, it's actually clear. I do flag people as spam straight away if they do those two things. Either they send to my personal email address. I have a work email address like everyone, and I got a personal one. If they send me, pitch on my personal.
What's your personal email, Jeremy?
I can give it to you. It doesn't matter. My email is like so old. I'm getting like, tons of spam on it.
Okay.
I have it from the beginning of the
internet.
So
no at Gmails.
No at Gmails. Yeah. Actually, if you're using QuickMail, for example, or any other tool, potentially with that feature, but I would add the gmail.com as a do not contact domain.
Smart.
Same for Yahoo, same for Hotmail. Add those ones so that way you don't send to personal inboxes unless you're contacting, what are like people who come and fix tubes and water and stuff like that, like plumbers,
appliance repair people.
Yeah, appliance contractors, those type of things. Sorry, don't feel insulted, please, if you're a plumber. But those professions usually always, come as like a personal type of company, and so
That's
therefore
true.
they use it. But most of the time, you'll be totally safe if you contact like a more established company. In a sense, you will, even startups, they have like their own domain for it. So do that. Otherwise, I'm going to flag you as spam straight away. Personal email is for personal matters, not for pitching. And then the second thing, very close, there are those two cases where I flag people as spam, the personal one. And the second one is when they're contacting groups that has absolutely zero relationship with what they're trying to sell. A good example of that is someone trying to sell me, for example, blog post content, but they contact vulnerability at quickmail.io, right? Which is only for reporting bugs and problems and stuff like that. Clearly, I freaking hate that. This is just a spam blasting. And this is one of the scenes that will mark you as spam straight away. And as a more general rule, try to avoid things group at something, right? Admin,
sales,
ad,
marketing,
sales, ad, marketing, because every time you contact like those groups, you're gonna multiply the chances of someone in this group flagging you as spam. And imagine you're sending one email, you could receive like 5 spam in exchange. That's a bad ratio, right?
Harsh.
Yeah, so I will avoid doing that whenever possible. The only exception I have is like when you have things like contact at, like for smaller companies. So contact at, info at, hello at, that's possible. On the line, they support at. That's very risky because again, that there's a misalignment between the group you're trying to contact, which is people who are supposedly supporting you in helping you driving through their software, for example, and actually
for
trying
paid
to
users,
sell something.
right?
Right, exactly. It's like, it's a fine line. It's a very difficult one, unless you know the founder is doing the support himself and you can't find his email address. That's probably the only exception I will do, which is probably, almost never.
Okay. Well, you haven't said it yet. I know you're going to.
Ooh.
In fact, I think you should touch on it. So let me jump to something that maybe not high up on your list, but it probably is. Okay. We've talked spam quite a bit here. Let's see though. So I'm going to say the content of your email is the almost next place
Ooh,
you need to spend your
nice.
time in order to reduce your spam complaints. I'm talking about your tone, and I'm talking about your personalization. So those are two weapons you have to drastically make fewer people want to flag you as spam.
The
Okay,
interesting part
so
about this is, for me, it wouldn't flag them as spam, but I will put them straight away and very quickly into my swap, folder for cold email. But some people may be less generous than me and you regarding, how we treat emails. So I think you're totally right here. Especially, if you do the dear sir, dear madam kind of thing, or you had like lots of bullet points with lots of links and lots of bold
all caps.
colors, yeah, it's clear.
Yeah, I mean, we know spam when we see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's next for you, Jeremy?
The next for me is I'm wondering. I'd say probably language, as in we're trying to minimize the spam complaint. And then if you're actually contacting people, in a certain country who speaks another language than English, you may minimize the spam complaint by speaking the language of their country. Like if you contact someone in the Netherlands, and use Dutch, right? If you contact someone in France, use French. If you contact someone in Germany, use German. That will get you less complaint than actually using a more generic English thing that kind of signal it is less targeted. For nowadays, there are more and more companies that are international, and then communicate in English and so on. But still, that will still get you less complaint to use the language of the recipient, basically.
That's interesting. I wonder, I'm sure our European listeners are taking that to heart. If you find yourself sending, for the most part, English-speaking campaigns to English speakers, I'm just curious, Jeremy. So I know QuickMail, right, is registered in Switzerland, right? That's where you are.
That's correct. We are a Swiss company.
QuickMail is obviously anyone who's been to quickmail.com, .io knows that
both works.
It's the page is in English, right?
That's right. We don't localize it. That's correct.
And so just in this case, let's say I'm like, okay, so let's go after Swiss tech companies. QuickMail's on my list. Do I need to speak in German, or do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you took a wrong example. Really... We got 4 language here.
That's my point, right? And English.
But for example, French,
I'm probably wrong. Yeah.
Right. I contact French companies. I would use French, even if my website is all in English, just because there is this likeness. We're together. We're in the same mode, in the same group. We could use more common expressions. Something that it's all about bridging gap and and starting a conversation. It's much easier in the native language of that person. So when someone do an outreach for me in French, I will spend more time reading it than I if it was in English. Because in English, it could be a blast to the whole world. In French, they have to be a bit more like there is there is some research behind it, one way or another. And I think I give credit to that in unconsciously, whatever, but it does work better.
I just feel like and if you can always use a native language, or just I wonder if there's like the expat thing where someone's living in Japan, right? And they don't speak Japanese, but you go through the trouble and translate in Japanese, and like, I wish I could reply, but I have no idea what they're saying.
You're right. You should look at their profile, how they, like, for example, my favorite thing is like seeing if they've been to a French university in order to speak to them in French.
Look at that.
It's so simple. You look at the history of the education. If they've done, their education in France somewhere, I don't care. They're in New York. I'm going to speak to them in French. Right? It's just simple.
Brilliant.
Right?
Smart.
That's what I use.
That was the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, location. You're right. HQ is not necessarily the right thing. Could be a US person being, leading a French company or whatever, and then they don't really, necessarily need to.
But I love that. Look at the university. Okay. I've got, let's say, the follow-up count here. So that's like a broad category. What I'm talking about is the timing and frequency of your messages. So
sending every hour an email.
right. I mean, that's an easy way to get marked as spam.
Yeah, it's gonna go spam. That's true.
What else? If you send 30 follow-ups, okay, I'm gonna mark you as spam, right? 30, like, give me a break, right?
Stop to break the cadence, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And when we're talking about timing in regards to spam complaints, it could be there's a time of year where this conversation is more appealing than others, especially if you're going after government. They may have a window where they've got budget to allocate, and then the rest of the year it's irrelevant. So be mindful if there is a buying month or season in order to drop your spam complaints. And for timing, I know we've ran some stats, Jeremy, some interesting data. It says the closer your emails are together, the greater the frequency, then the higher the reply rate, not necessarily positive, right?
That's totally right. It moves more people into action, but it could be because of frustration, and that's not a good response you're going to get here.
Right. But be mindful of timing as you follow up.
Good one.
Okay. And there's two that are screaming at me. I'm leaving them for you.
Go for it.
No. Do you have any more on your list?
Oh, I got plenty.
I know you do.
A simple one, we say like, dear madam, dear sir. You have to be mindful as to who you're contacting and what language they speak. So we're not talking about like font, bold, caps and colors and stuff like that, but it's more like the language. And I experienced that firsthand, actually, personally. When I was contacting doctors, I didn't use doctor as a word. Those guys are so egocentric.
They work hard for that doctor.
I know. It's like 8 years to get their PhD.
Right.
And that random dude that they don't know from Adam and Eve, come back and send them an email, just telling them two big mistakes I did. The first one is to not call them doctor. And the second one is to talk about their customers instead of their clients. Man, they get me a lot of shit. And that actually here's the silver lining here, is that in order to minimize spam complaint, you have to, and there's no other way, you have to listen to rejection and act on it, right? Because if, a lot of people are telling you something that, get under their skin, use that, even for that may be true, that may not be true, that may be what you want to do, doesn't matter, but take that feedback, change your outreach, so you're going to get less complaints.
That's that qualitative feedback that most conversion rate optimization people would die to have.
That's right.
Right. Not everybody who visits a landing page fills out a survey, right? So we get that every day, which is a hidden beauty of this cold email thing. Okay, Jeremy, you haven't said it yet. So
tell me, hit me.
Your unsubscribe links.
That's an interesting one.
Unsubscribe links. So if you add an unsubscribe header and or hey, go here if you don't want me to follow up again, or hey, just let me know if you don't want me to, just give people an easy way to stop hearing from you, will reduce your spam complaints. I'm almost going to say after list and after tone and yeah. So list would include your note on which email you find. I'm going to say this unsubscribe link is the next most important thing, because the people flag you as spam, A, because they're mad at you, and B, so they don't hear from you again. So having an unsubscribed link really easy, front and center, that takes care of the second one, where it's an easy way to not hear from you again. And it doesn't harm your reputation. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but when somebody unsubscribes using your header link, that's an engagement. That's actually a plus. It means somebody clicked a link. Is that true?
I'm not entirely sure, because there is a system, internal system done by Gmail.
But so who owns that link? Like, you own that link, right? Like, not you, but the sender owns it.
But you come through a different system within Gmail. So it could be that, they don't interpret that as, as proper engagement. I'm not entirely sure, but they may not ding you for, people,
right?
Willing to unsubscribe instead of flagging you as spam. I got an interesting take on this one. You may you may get a kick out of this one, and the listener, it's a fun tidbit. It may not be something that is actionable, but it's definitely very interesting. It could depend on what country you're targeting. And I give you a really good, yeah, that's right. I had a discussion with a very big email service provider, with the founder of like a massive one a few years back. And he told me that a certain country, namely Turkey,
talking about.
they actually use the spam button as a way of deleting or archiving the emails. So it's more like a cultural thing on how they do things. So imagine.
Continent was that, Jeremy?
Was that?
Can you just the continent?
Oh, it was Turkey. I don't mind saying it. It's like,
oh yeah, okay.
According to their stats, people in Turkey actually use it as part of their normal workflow. Instead of archiving, they were just like flagging as spam. So avoid sending. Maybe it doesn't happen anymore. I don't know. I don't care. But that's an interesting fact. It's like, you may actually, if you're more, if you're sent all over the world, you may realize that some countries are more at risk than others to flag you as spam for stupid reason like the one I just said, right? It may not even be because of you. So that's what they figured out with all their newsletters and how they were sending, and the notification back from Gmail telling them like, oh, those people flag you as spam. So anyway, that was funny.
So with that, Jeremy, have we gotten any closer to reporting on spam complaints?
In what way?
With getting insights on how many spam complaints we get.
No, it's always difficult on a per individual basis. It's always something that is inferred. Basically, you can see, your level of open rates just dropping drastically, which means you probably have been rejected too many times. And it's always a sort of ratio, right? If I send like 2 emails and those 2 are flagged as spam, it's 100% spam, thing. So there is a balance here. That's why people are using auto warmers as well. That sort of like reduce the amount and the volume of spam complaint. Plus, auto warmer actually takes you out of the spam filter, so signaling this is not a spam email. So there's a lot of things here. You could potentially, I guess you could say, auto warmer also reduce the spam complaint, but it's a fake one. It actually reduces the ratio or the percent of spam complaints, not actually reducing the spam complaints.
No, you're right. It does help you stay in the inbox, but for the purpose of how to reduce a spam complaint, right? It's a little bit outside
the rate of spam complaint, but that's not really what we're looking here.
Yeah. Okay. You got any other, speaking of ways to reduce spam complaints?
So I do still have one more. And I'm surprised you didn't say this one, so I'm going to steal it from you, unless you still have it on your list. But it's personalization. And the rule
I said personalization.
Oh, you did? Oh, no,
I said that. Tone and personalization.
Okay. Well, let me spend a little bit more time on the personalization bit then.
Okay.
The reason why it will reduce your spam complaint is because of the law of reciprocity. If you spend effort writing it, people will not immediately sort of like ditch you. They may give you the benefit of the doubt and then actually just say, well, that person still spends a lot of time. It's kind of harsh to flag them as spam. Obviously, the flip side of this is if your personalization is totally wrong and definitely not addressed to you, people will really hate you for that, and they will definitely hit the spam button, right?
It's true. It's something you got to be careful of, because it gets read. You're likely putting it up top on the beginning of your message. It's likely being displayed in the preview text. So you got to get it right. Because we've done teardowns where it backfires drastically, where it just changes the whole tone of the rest of the message, where everything else was okay. But then you were this person who didn't even spend enough time to know that you're actually reaching out to a competitor, right? Or you're actually... right, fill in the blank. You get it wrong, and it looks bad. It's easier to hit the spam complaint button, actually. So that's interesting. So personalization is both a helper and a hindrance to your spam complaints.
Yeah, it's like, and can I add like a sort of last one? It's like, a lower one, I would say.
Fortunately, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for playing. Yeah, let's hear it. What do you got?
Good one. You got me here for a second. It's linked to what we said about the content. But I will say specifically, try not to be negative toward the other person, and less egocentric and more about them. And so the more about them is obvious, right? If I receive an email and it's all about me, I'm going to say, oh, okay, that's nice, but no thanks, right? If it's all about like that person is like, I don't know this person, and if it comes at the wrong time, it annoys me, bam, spam. But the other one is about don't be negative, in a sense that people like positive people more than they like negative people. So an example of that was when I was contacting financial planners, I thought I had like a great thing. Financial planners in Australia were having like terrible websites. I figured out like, hey, why don't I, point the finger to their terrible website and say, I can help you. And of course, this was, let's say I had a bit of a backslash to this, and my open rate actually dipped for, a couple of weeks because of this specific campaign. Which is basically, don't make people look bad, because they're going to hate you for that. And they want to get even with you. And so they just press the spam button, right?
There's only one thing worse than making someone look bad at work, and it's making someone look bad in front of their boss. So
yeah, you should CC their boss.
What?
You should CC their boss. CC their boss in your email, of course,
Yeah, I was just adding that in case, you want to make sure your email is forward friendly, right? So anyone who's going to sign off on paying you will probably read that message, and the person forwarding it should shine by sharing it with their colleagues as opposed to getting bashed if you want it passed along at all.
That's a good point. Yeah. And in fact, if you do it well with your personalization, and that's another thing I didn't consider and thought of is like, having a personalization line that is so looking good for the other person that they will be happy to sort of forward this email. If not for the content of the email specifically, it's just like a slight hint about like, look at how good I was.
Yeah, it can be hard to do that if you're reaching out to like mid-level manager who's, it's easy to compliment what the company's done, but unless that person is public about their work, what are you going to say about it? Someone who's been with the company a year and how they've shared 2 sentences.
Thanks for the course. I heard such great thing for the course, the cold email course. It's definitely going to check it out. I heard, you're doing XYZ, or like you were so, you were looking so good. Whatever.
Yeah. So that would work, but the trick is finding
Johnny,
that
check
about
out the email I received.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Of course. Okay. So Jeremy, I'm going to press you on that thing I mentioned earlier. Give us the top 2 most important things on your list.
B2B.
So that we.
Right. And group. No group, no B2C.
Okay. I like it. And then for me, I'm going to say list, and then unsubscribe link. That's the easiest to, except for the list can be tricky. And then
so let me push back a little bit on this one. When was the last time you flagged someone as spam? And was it because they didn't put an unsubscribe link after sending you a sequence of 20 emails?
Right. So the last time I flagged someone as spam was because I received a spam email. It got through. I don't know how. It was mentioning how Elon Musk was looking for investors.
Oh, is it? Can you forward it to me then?
Yeah, I could forward it. It was from like a Gmail, right? So they got through, and no, it wasn't because they had follow-up.
Right, Nigeria type of scheme. All right, but any legit one, like legit cold outreach that
fair? Okay, so I never actually flag cold emails as spam, Jeremy. I just mark them into my cold email swipe files because I want to see the next 8. I'm not going to open them because they won't land in my inbox at that point, but I let them live in my cold email swipe folder.
Never.
So because of that,
because I do
you got to send me a really terrible thing.
I do the same as you, but when I receive like 3 times the same email, one from vulnerability at, another one from my own one, and another one at support, or like like literally those 3 within 5 minutes intervals. Well, I got to flag them as spam. It's just like too poor practice,
Right. Which that's what the tool's for, right? And I'm sure I am grateful for the tool, right? I mean, it isn't a death sentence to cold email marketing or sales. It's just to keep the bad guys out so that the rest of us can play nice with our channel here. So hey, I'm glad it lives right above that email here. It keeps it keeps things a little cleaner, a little nicer. And I'll tell you, it's certainly improving our open rates, because it's just the inbox is more valuable, right? Because it's generally filled with less spam, thanks to those very smart computer scientists who put together the TensorFlow algorithms that made it such a wake-up call for a lot of cold emailers in 2000, right. spring 19, was it?
I remember, the spray and pray is over, my friend. Now it has to be good
Wild
email.
West.
And so that's why we put a course together. Do you want to talk about the course?
Yeah, head over to course.quickmail.io if you want the conversation to continue in a way that is less unstructured and more have a seat. This is what you need to know in order to execute successful cold email campaigns today. Even if you're not a seasoned veteran like Jeremy over here, if you're new to a sales role and you want to try and figure out what's going on with cold email, how do you use it to make your company some money in a way that your recipients like, in a way that your messages stay out of that pesky spam folder, the course was created for just that. And fortunately, right now you can try it out. I'm going to say this a spam word. Oh, we should have added that. No, it's not spam complaints. But you could try it out risk-free for a month, right? And our kind of thing is, if it doesn't blow your mind, if it wasn't money well spent, then we give you a refund because we stand by it. It's good stuff. Right. You can join the community and have, Jeremy and I in your corner to coach you through, what is it, from basically getting your feet wet with cold email to all the way ending up with a lead generating machine, if you will, that is run a lot by either VAs or another team member, so that you can spend a lot more of your time just having those conversations you work so hard to start in the first place.
All right, well said. Jack, thanks for the cast. Good stuff.
Likewise, Jeremy. And stay out of that spam folder, listeners. See you next time.